Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio, a webinar series we put together, introducing you guys to a bunch of cool technologies in the virtualization world. But this isn't just like the videos we do or the podcasts we do, where it's just really one-sided. We're preaching to you. We're talking amongst ourselves. What's cool about DABCC Live, or what I hope that you will find cool about DABCC Live, is that this is all about you. We're showing these technologies off to you and allowing you to answer, we'll answer, allowing you to ask questions throughout the process. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you can come up with, that you have, that anything you want, just ask them away. Use the chat box within webinar here, and we're good to go. I will make sure throughout this webinar that I stop and pause and make sure that I ask these questions to my guest for today. So I'm really excited about this because we have InstallFree with us, and InstallFree is an amazing application virtualization solution. And I hope you guys like what you see. I'm pretty tickled about this one. It's as I call it, this is the next generation application virtualization. It's not your father's Oldsmobile, as I like to say. It's the next generation. It's really neat stuff, and I'm not going to steal Yuri's thunder. I'll let him walk you through it, and you guys definitely ask as many questions as you can dream of, and we'll make sure we answer them. If we don't, we'll get back to you on them, but we will answer a lot of questions. I've already told Yuri this is the way it's going to be, so it's the way it's going to be. So that being said, my guest for today is InstallFree, and a gentleman named Yuri Gabai, who is the CEO over there and one of the founders. So let's just dive into it. Yuri, thank you so much.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks for having us. Yuri Gabai, CEO and founder of InstallFree. With me, I have today Gaurav Prasad, a solution architect at InstallFree. In terms of the agenda, I was planning to spend about 2-3 minutes about company introduction, just to tell you who we are, what we do, and what is the value proposition. Very quickly go over some of the key use cases that we see in the market, and right after that, dive in and go through a demo, talk about Windows 7 migration program, and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So let's start just very quickly, talk about InstallFree. Essentially what we do, we provide application virtualization software to enterprises. We are focused on the enterprise market to lower the cost and complexity of delivering and managing applications while increasing portability and compatibility of applications. In a nutshell, the way we see the world is all about application delivery. You have an application, you have an end user on the other end, and what is the best way to deliver that application to the end user? And it can be in the context of distributed computing or server-based computing. Any form of computing, in our view, is means to an end. Essentially, it's about delivering that application to the end user. And that's what we do. The company was founded in early 2006. That is a technology that we built from the ground up as a way to deliver applications to end users. We worked in the automated support solution space for about 10 years before starting InstallFree, and that kind of knowledge and understanding, fixing the problems in the Windows environment for so many years, led us to develop this solution. The company is headquartered in Stamford, Connecticut, and we do have a team of industry veterans that work in the same space, in the desktop management space, in multiple facets, but solely focused on the desktop. The product that we're going to see today has been in the market since April of 2008, almost a year and a half. And in terms of the go-to-market, we do sell direct, but we also work with channel partners in Europe and the US, and we also work with Big Fix, PMC, Red Hat, and Amazon in terms of OEM partners. So what are the things that we see in the market? When we talk to customers, we see the need for dynamic provisioning for user and machine, the ability to dynamically deliver and manage applications either user, machine, or combination of both. That use case is more more prevalent in the healthcare, in the education space, that you have a ratio of 1 to many. So you can do a combination of both, certain applications to the machine, on top of that you deliver certain applications to the user. The entire application lifecycle of deliver, patch, and manage on the fly without ever touching the operating system. The issue of mobility, and that relates to our universal client approach, that you have a set of applications that follow the user wherever they go. So they have a consistent computing experience regardless of the machine. In a given day, I could go to a machine on the first floor, based on my login credentials, get the applications that were assigned to me, and go to another computer in the building, let's say the second floor, and get the same set of applications with my personal settings while maintaining centralized management capabilities. We do see the need for application migration and OS migration. We see corporations that they have multiple versions of operating systems, and they need a single package that can be delivered across these platforms. So XP to Windows 7, XP to Vista, Server 2003, Server 2008, and you have one package that is managed across the enterprise. Lockdown OS without locking down users. We work on lockdown computers without having to have admin privileges. We have self-service capabilities. We have the ability for enterprises to let users work on lockdown computers, but within that kind of bubble of the virtual application as admin-like privileges. That is something that is controlled from a centralized location. Real-time policy-based orchestration, the ability to have a specific policy per application or per scenario. And because we kind of decouple the desktop into individual elements and connect between the elements during the runtime, that is the notion of dynamic binding, we're able to manage each piece individually to a very great granularity to define that that application will not have access to the C drive or the USB drive or the clipboard, depending. So that is done during runtime, so the policy is decoupled from the application and is managed on the fly. Beyond that, the application conflict isolation, mostly multiple versions of Java, multiple versions of .NET, multiple browsers on the same machine, and overall rapid provisioning and reprovisioning, self-service recovery of applications to users. That is the last slide, but in a nutshell kind of summarizes what we do, and it's all about application delivery. The InstallFree Bridge is the product that we're going to see in a moment. And in a typical enterprise, you have a variety of platforms. It can be Windows 7, Vista, XP, hosted the virtual machine, server-based computing like Citrix or terminal services. And that is within the enterprise. When we go to outside the enterprise, you have home PC or personal corporate laptop where you need to extend the corporate footprint, and that is done either through domain control machines or non-domain computers, but essentially the same applications are delivered to either of the environments. On top, you will see what we call desktop elements, different desktop elements. Some of them can be applications, add-on patches, user settings, user state of applications, policies, and even shells, and everything is streamed to the local machine for local processing. So that is kind of the background to what we do. I'm going to close this application. Let me show you what I have here, and the point I'm trying to make is the universal client, the ubiquitous computing environment, the ability for an end user to go between operating systems, between computing environments, and have the same exact computing experience. So before I do that, I did use the virtual Microsoft Office 2007, and I'm going to deprovision this application from the user and kind of start fresh. So just to show you what I have here. I'm running on a server 2003, where I have the InstallFree management console, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And I have 3 operating systems that are running side by side. The first one is Windows XP. The machine that I'm working on is a lockdown computer, and nothing is installed on that computer. And we're going to further drill down on the Windows XP in a moment. The second machine that I have is Windows Vista. And the third machine that I have is Windows 7. And the idea is that from a centralized location, I have one package, one application that is delivered and experienced across this operating system. And we're going to talk a little bit more how this relates to Windows 7 migration and the implication of that. So, first of all, let's go and look at the management console here. The InstallFree management console, it is also a virtual application that is not required to be installed, and that is how I deliver and manage applications to end users. There are 3 major parts to the InstallFree management console. The first part is the read-only access to Active Directory. So, and the second part is a file share. These are the 2 requirements to use the product: read-only access to AD and a file share, which means that the customer can utilize the product based on his existing infrastructure. There is no upfront investment, and the time to benefit is very, very short. So I can go and send on any machine, a group of machines, right-click, and deliver applications per machine. I can go to any group, for example, the sales group here, right-click on the sales group, and then deliver applications to that group. Second part is the file share. As we spoke earlier, we saw that we have desktop elements. Some of the things that reside on the file share can be virtual applications, patches for applications, middleware like .NET or Java, policies for applications, and everything is kind of connected during the runtime. So if we go and look at the structure of specific applications, let's take, for example, Microsoft Project 2003. You always have the core application with the version and all the components of the core application. And under each application, you have a subset that is called update. For example, there is a Service Pack 3 from Microsoft Project 2003, and their expansions. These are components that are required to run with the application. In that case, it can be ODBC. In other cases, for example, with an application like NateLabels, it can be a very old version of Java. And that is done during the runtime, so that's what allows you to define which components run with which application, and everything is dynamically binded during the runtime. Furthermore, you do have the ability to define policies, or as we said, policy-based orchestration during the runtime, either per user or per application. I can go to a specific application like the project application, right-click on the application, and have the properties of the application. I have the ability to define exactly how this application will run, their policies per the engine, the base, the version, the language, but these are individual components that are connected during the runtime. In that case, they're inherited from a higher place in the tree, but you can make a change per application. You can decide how the virtual application will run. It can run online, offline, or stream, which means that if you define it as online only, the application will be available only when you're connected to the network. And when
Yuri, I lost you. We have lost audio. Okay, guys, we have a little bit of technical problems today. Let's see what happened to Yuri. Yuri, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can everyone out there hear him? Yeah, somebody says yeah. Okay, good. So, guys,
right.
I'm so sorry about that.
Not sure for how long I was talking on my own.
Yeah, maybe a couple minutes. So if you can back up a bit, that would be great.
Wow. All right. Okay, I'll just start here when I was talking about the ability to have policies per user or per application, and you can define the exact policies of either. And I was talking about the ability to define the accessibility of the application online, offline, or stream, the location of the user data, the versioning of the other components. I was talking about the ADM policies that essentially define the interconnectivity between virtual and physical and between virtual and virtual. We have certain defaults here that define that, but you can go to the custom level and to very fine granularity define if the virtual application has access to the clipboard or to the local drive, network drive, depending on the scenario, how you deliver that application to the user. The point is that everything is done on the fly during runtime. It's not included with the package, so I can make changes to the package at any given point in time. The entire architecture of the product, as you see, is completely decoupled from each other. Nothing is coupled together. It means that you can make a change to any part in the stack at any given point in time, including the engine, including the policies, etc. Okay? I'll move along here and try to dive into the product demo, which I think is most important to show here because, okay, so going down here to the components of the system, like the engine. When we release a new engine, all you have to do is essentially go and add a new IFV engine and set it as the default. So any packages that you do today, they're good for a long, long time. There is no need for repackaging when a new operating system comes along. I have packages here that are 2-3 years old, and every time if we change something is on the engine level, and the engine is coupled to the virtual application, what we call AOD. AOD is our format of virtual application. The same logic applies to the bridge that we're going to talk about very quickly. IFMC administrators, so this is also a management platform that you can give different users in the organization the ability to manage different organization units. And lastly, before we go to the deployment, is statistical report that we can show you the utilizations of applications per users and you can slice this and get some kind of utilization from the product, or you can drill down per application, per user, etc. Okay, so this is the management console, and obviously we can spend a lot of time on it, but the idea is that this is a virtual application as well that requires only a file share and read-only access to AD, so you're able to be up and running in a very short time based on your existing infrastructure.
Hey, Yuri, Yuri, if I can interrupt real quick, that actually brings me to one of the questions from the audience, and that is, at some point, we systems engineers need to see how to set up this environment, all the pieces. And what you just said is that this is 100% virtual. Each one of your components is just a virtual app, and you just need to drop it down, have a file share, and away you're, and off and running. Can you explain that process real quick so they understand what it has taken for you to get to the point where you are, where what you're showing them on the screen right now?
Right. So you download from our website, or what we call the InstallFree Management Console. When you run it for the first time, it's going to ask you for AD credentials to pull the AD schema. The second thing is going to ask you for a file share. You need to designate a file share. And at that point, you set up the IFMC. There are certain virtual applications that can be downloaded from our website, from the cloud, so you don't need to package your own applications for that matter, for the evaluation purposes. And we have just freeware applications you can download and start deploying. Or if you want to package your own application, we have also our encapsulator, which is also a virtual application that you can package an application and create an AOD. The delivery mechanism for that is the InstallFree Bridge, and that is simply also a virtual application that is added through a login script, and then you're up and running and you can deploy the application.
Perfect. I have a couple other questions, if you don't mind, real quick. I want to get to.
Sure.
In the the second one here being, do you have any issues with delivering any types of applications? The question in particular is 3D applications, such as MicroStation and AutoCAD. But are there any other type of applications that you guys might have troubles delivering?
I think if you have to draw a line in the sand, user mode applications are applications that we're able to virtualize. Device drivers are not, we're not able to virtualize because they're kind of part of the OS for that matter. That will be the hard division. I mean, we ran into very complex user mode applications. It might take a little bit more time, but eventually it's doable. It's not a technical limitation. So I would say user mode apps can be virtualized. Device drivers cannot be virtualized.
Perfect, perfect. And then there's actually a couple questions already, and I knew this one would come up, and I was going to save it to the last, but since these guys are pinging me to death on this, I want to ask it right now. And that is the question about, what's different between InstallFree and, let's say, SoftGrid, and what makes, and another question along the same lines is, what makes InstallFree better than AppV or Citrix App Streaming in your view?
Right. I think it makes sense, and I would love to answer that question. It makes sense to go through the demo, and probably at that point we'll be in a better position to come and address all the differentiations of the dynamic binding and the interconnectivity and policies, and no need for clean machine. A lot of differences between us, but I would rather respond after we go through the demo, and then I think the answer will resonate better.
Absolutely, absolutely. That sounds great. That sounds great. Okay, so please continue.
Okay, thank you. So that is the management console, and let's take one operating system, for example, and let's take the Windows XP that from our standpoint, we have a lockdown computer, and the reason I'm clicking here on the clock is just I don't even have the privileges to make any changes to the time. It is a machine that is clean. Nothing has been installed with the exception of device drivers here that cannot be virtualized, as you know. So these are part of the OS. These are device drivers, but there are certainly no applications. Even if you go to my documents of the user, you will see that there are certain files with no applications that are associated with them. Okay. Here what we have is the InstallFree bridge. The InstallFree bridge is a virtual application as well that is not required to be installed, and it is delivered to the local machine through a login script. So when you log into the network, the bridge is streamed to the local machine. And the purpose of the bridge is to do two things. Number one is to integrate between physical and virtual, including file association, shell extension, menu, and interconnectivity between locally installed applications and virtual applications. For example, if you run a locally installed IE and you need a virtual Adobe reader, that bridging is done through the bridge. The second part of the bridge is to communicate with the management console and to see which applications were assigned to that user. So let's go to the management console and go to the sales department of my organization. I'm going to right-click on the sales department and start delivering applications. Let's take Microsoft Project 2003, and let me remove the service pack from the application.
Hey, real quick, Yuri, you talked about the bridge. Does each Citrix user get their own bridge, or do you install this just once on the Citrix server?
It is one. I mean, there is one copy that is delivered to the machine. There is no. What do you mean by running? It's on the file share. It's also a virtual application, Doug. It's a virtual application that is streamed to the local machine and kind of serves as a communication layer between the IFMC and the machine.
Perfect. So for the gentleman, excuse me?
That makes sense?
That was a question from the audience, so we'll see if that made sense to them, but it made sense.
Okay.
It made sense to me.
No, it is running on the local machine. It's not running on the back end.
Okay. But within a
Okay.
Citrix server, because it's a multi-user server, you do have that the install-free bridge just running just like it's just an application that runs. It's a virtualized application that runs within the system tray, and they're just one instance, and it catches each virtual session. Correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So
Yes.
the answer would be yes. There's only one copy running.
Yeah. Yeah. So continuing to deliver applications. So let's take a project, Office 2003, Net Labels, which is a client-server application that requires, for example, a very old version of Java here. We have WinRAR, right, but also Adobe Reader. And when I click OK and go to the local machine, you will see the InstallFree bridge that communicates to the management console. I'm just quickly going to open the My document.
And if I can interrupt again real quick, guys, on the screen right now, you sort of see the little bubble here, and it sees that and you can see that it's adding some applications. That little icon down there right next to the time is that bridge that we just talked about. That's the piece that gets, installed on the system, and it comes down from the file share, and it's just a virtual app. So, and that gets launched as the user logs in, just as any other application gets launched. Correct?
Right, right. So at that point, as we clicked on the applications that will be assigned to the user, the applications are streamed to the local machine depending on the policy, either for offline or offline usage, but fully integrate into the shell of the host computer. So one of them will be all of this done without writing to the operating system. Okay, there is no write to the registry or the operating system. Everything is virtual as opposed to writing to the operating system to get this kind of interconnectivity. When I go to start programs, you will see that the applications appear there. When I click on a certain application on a file, it launches the application. So the end user experience is the same extent. The application operates in the same exact way as if it were installed. Let me close this here. More than that, you will see that the virtual applications will show in the add remove programs. So if there is any software that looks for add remove programs for the virtual applications, they will show there. So it's completely transparent. Even right click of application, WinRAR is one of the applications that we added. You will see that the right click context menu is available to the user. Let's take, for example, Microsoft project and talk about incremental patching. Because InstallFree is a dynamic binding technology, we can always deliver patches and add-ons on the fly to users. Let's look at the version of the application as at 15, and I can go to that specific user and patch the user for a specific user or the entire organization, depending where I go on the tree. I can provide a service pack for an application during runtime. So there is no need for repackaging of the application every time there is a new version. That's another difference between InstallFree and any other player in the market. Here is a service pack of the application, and it's going to be dynamically binded to the application. And you will see in a moment that the bridge is going to spin. It's going to get the incremental patch of the application. And now what we see here is that the service pack is deployed to that specific user. You can go ahead and assign it to other users in the organization, etc. And if the service pack does not work for any reason, you can always uncheck and go back. And this is going back to the dynamic binding. Let's look at Microsoft Excel as an example. The ability to deploy add-ons and toolbars on the fly, as opposed to having to couple the application with the entire set of components it requires during the time of encapsulation. Here, you can incrementally add on toolbars or anything else to the application. So you will see that it's just a clean Excel. Again, I can go I can go to that specific user, and for that user during runtime, deliver right now Microsoft Money Toolbar that will dynamically bind to the application. Okay,
Hey, Yuri, if you can speak up, please.
yeah. So now when I open the Excel spreadsheet, you will see that the Microsoft Money Toolbar is binded to the application during the runtime. Any questions so far?
There's actually a lot of questions here, which is good. That's exactly what we want, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
you bet. Do you want me to go through these real quick? This is a nice little stuff.
Sure, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them, so bear with me as I don't want to ask all the questions about the Citrix versus. There's tons of those. Definitely speak up. Can InstallFree run different versions of the same program side by side? For example, Office 2003 and Office 2007.
Yes, yes. Definitely we can do that. So we can do that, and there is also a file association manager that you can assign. So if I right now assign to only to that specific user, let's say Office 2007, in addition to that, I have the ability while the application streams, I can manage the file association with the application. So now you see that the user was assigned Office 2003 and 2007, and I can define that, for example, doc will be opened with Office 2007 and not 2003, or XLS, PPT. So when I get an email from someone with a PPT and I double click on the file, it's going to launch the 2007 and not the 2003 because it's supported by both. So definitely, yes.
Perfect. Do you cache the applications locally, or are they streamed down upon each time a user logs in?
Depending on the policy that was assigned to the user, if the user is an offline user, all the applications are cached on the local machine the first time, and then only if there was a change, it's going to be delivered to the user. If a user is an online user, we don't cache the entire application. What we do, we publish only the connectivity layer, which is the shortcuts of the application, and only when you click on the application is going to stream to the local machine.
Perfect. Does the architecture support multiple deployment locations, i.e. shares? Or do you have to have one central management point?
So if it supports like satellite offices, etc.
Yeah.
Yes. So it does. Definitely, it does. We support file replication. We have something that is called location-based configuration management. So you can define from which location the end user will get the AODs and the application based on the location, based on the subnet, based on IP or any other parameter you want to define. Also, the management console itself gives you the ability to allocate different responsibilities to different users in the organization. So from a file distribution standpoint, we have the configuration, location-based configuration manager. From a management standpoint, we have the ability to give different organization units the ability to either manage their own units. For example, if there is a company that is based in New York, that is the headquarters, but they have branch offices in Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles, you can have, the Chicago and the Boston, Los Angeles branch managers manage only their kind of piece, and maybe the guy from New York have accessibility to all the branches. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect, perfect. So what's the impact on the network? What type of traffic are you sending across it?
In terms of the traffic is really delivering the bits and the AODs from location A, location B. When you have satellite offices, we recommend to cache the AODs on one of the computers or in a file share in the branch office, so everybody is not going, for example, all the way from Chicago to New York, but rather they go to the machine in Chicago and pull the AODs from there. Keep in mind that there is one AOD that is shared across all users, so you just cache them locally at the branch office.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a few more, but let's continue the demo, and then we'll jump back into questions a little bit. Sound good?
Great. Okay. As we talk about Windows 7 migration, we know that one of the key challenges with OS migration is really around the application layer, especially client-server applications, certain applications that require a certain version of the browser like IE6 or maybe IE7, homegrown applications that were written on XP, and that probably it is the major obstacle to move to a new operating system. Beyond that, we believe that every time there is an OS refresh, that's an opportunity for an application virtualization solution kind of to shine and have a clean slate and start from that point. I mean, in between, you will see customers having some corner cases and certain applications that they're having challenges with. But at that point of moving to Windows 7, you have an opportunity to keep your OS very thin, maybe install a few applications, device drivers, but overall to virtualize your applications and enjoy the benefits of low-cost management and dynamic provisioning and management. So here is an example of one of the applications, and the application is NetLabels that requires IE6 that is used in the medical space, older versions of Java. But when you go to the browser that is running with it is a virtualized version of IE6. And as we move between operating systems, for example, if I go now to my Windows Vista and run that application, you will see that the same application that was packaged to run here is running also on Windows Vista and Windows 7. And that is the key benefits of virtualization and run multiple versions of the same browser or the same application run across Windows platforms. Again, if I go to my Windows 7 machine and I run the NetLabels, now I'm running that application, the same exact application with IE6. Okay? So from the point of the Windows XP, now we see the portability between operating system, that ubiquitous computing experience that you can log into any machine and get the same exact experience. I mean, I went between different operating systems and the same applications. There is one package of Office 2003, for example, that I used, and it's going with me wherever I go. So if I think of a day in the life of a user, when you go to machine and run Office application, and I'm just going to write down XP here, and I'm going to save my application. Okay, I'm going to save that application and log off, and now go to my Vista machine. I guess I went home. And by the way, we do support non-domain computers, so the same applications can be delivered through HTTPS. Again, going to my Office applications that are the same virtual applications. I open the same app with my toolbar, with my settings, and go to that file. And then continue to work on that same document with the same application although I move between different operating systems. Going to Windows 7. Now it streams to the local machine. I think this user is set to be offline. The application is delivered, the same app. I'm going to go and open. And now I'm on Windows 7. And that is our idea of the universal client, to have a set of applications that follow the user wherever they go. Think that in the enterprise, you will have some XP, some Vista, some Windows 7, some server-based computing, and you have one package that you're going to run across all these platforms. So, I mean, manageability and the cost that is associated with it is much lower. Another point, I know that we're kind of running out of time. Doug, you there?
Yes, I am. We can definitely, once we get to the top of the hour, guys, we'll go ahead and, allow you guys to jump off. But if you want to stick around, we'll continue and answer a few more questions. And just because we had a little bit of technical problems, just continue along. But, of course, we respect the hour. So, if you guys are if you want to stick around, we'll continue. If you want to jump off at the top of the hour, definitely do. We are recording this, so we will be able to have a download of it. And then we will send you the slides that we sent. There was a question, will we send the slides? Absolutely. It'll all be posted to dabcc.com, hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the next day.
Great.
Sound good, Yuri?
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm here. I have time. Just want to be conscious of everybody else's time. So we went through the point of basically going between different operating systems with the same applications, taking client-server applications like NetLabels, or we have Synapse here, or other really enterprise-class applications that require different dependencies, and you can assure that same consistent user experience between operating systems, and I think that's going to alleviate a lot of the pain that is associated with moving to Windows 7. As you know, our slogan is designed for users, built for IT, and we always try to find the balance between the IT manager's need to lock down the desktop and have that kind of operational efficiency, but at the same time, we would like to think about the end user productivity. And we had done a few things in that respect. As I mentioned in the beginning, the ability for an end user to extend the virtual application in a very secure way. So let's say you have a virtual browser and you go to a website, and at some point you need to have a Flash plugin to see a certain Flash animation. You can extend that, and that becomes part of the user data, user state of the application, and it roams with the user wherever you go. We give the ability to eliminate that, not unable to extend the bubble, or to delete the user state after each session. If you remember in the policy, there is a session to do that. So I can give you a one-time browser session, but every time you start fresh. Another thing to kind of alleviate and increase the end-user productivity is to provide self-service. Self-service is also a virtual application that you can assign to user, and you define container of applications that are kind of publicly available, so not necessarily part of the corporate image or anything else, but you can have compression utilities or browsers or instant messengers. Some users would like to do it, and it's not permitted because of the limitations of traditional computing. But what if I can deliver a virtual application that is completely sandbox? Then I can just do that. Go to Opera, click Apply, and then the application is delivered to the local machine and available to the user. That creates the balance between, the IT operational efficiency and the end user productivity. As if you remember last VMworld, we presented the notion of self-encapsulation. So the next level in that is beyond self-service is self-encapsulation. What if the application that you want is not part of that repository, and you want to go to a website and download an application and package it yourself. So we also support that, not currently, but it's in the roadmap for next year to add the self-encapsulation capabilities, so an end user can be on a lockdown machine, go open a browser, download an application, run it in the background. We capture that, stream the application back to the management console. The IT manager approves or not approves, and that application follows you wherever you go. So that is the notion of self-service. Any questions?
We have a lot of questions. So
Okay.
You want me to start asking you some questions?
Please,
Okay.
go ahead.
Perfect. So we will save the Citrix app. Someone asked about Symantec's solution also, which they have a nice one. We'll save that one for last. But here's a question about application compatibility. How about Adobe? Is there a challenge? Or he says, I hear there is a challenge with this. Is there any challenge with delivering Adobe?
The Adobe Writer, right? Is that correct? Not Adobe Reader, but I guess there is a printer driver that is associated with Adobe, and yes, it is a challenge because here you have an application, so 90-some% of the application can be done, but the device driver cannot be virtualized.
Okay. Next question. Some applications might have many options. And then he put in parentheses components. Installation of these of those applications are user and group driven. What are my options for those cases? Does that make sense?
Yes. So the user or group driven. I'm not that familiar with that. Maybe Gaurav can answer the user and group driven policies based on the application.
Sure. Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, let me. Some applications might have many options, components. Installation of those options are user and group driven. What are my options in those cases?
Okay, so there's a couple of ways that can be handled. One, what you can do is you can take an application, let's say the base application, virtualize that. Any user-specific settings or, let's say, group-specific settings based on, let's say an AD structure can be virtualized or, sort of containerized by user, by group. And as Yuri had shown in the management console, because we do a read off of your Active Directory, we can deploy out just those user-specific settings or, let's say, configurations or any files or, whatever it may be for that particular user or for that particular group. And so you can utilize the expansion AOD container that's a subcontainer of each of the virtual apps, and then, again, put that particular item as an expansion AOD, deliver it out for that specific set of users, user security groups, OUs, whatever it may be, as Yuri is kind of showing right now.
Perfect. So let me know if that answers your question, gentlemen out there that asked that question. And for the next question, does the user have to log off and then back on again for updates to take effect?
I'll take that one, Yuri. So actually, that's one method, is that every time a user logs in and the bridge, which is the agentless client that runs in the tray, once the bridge turns green and can detect the file share, it will poll very quickly for any changes and will reflect those changes on the user's endpoint. There's also what's called a check for update timer. That's actually a setting that's defined in the bridge properties, and that can be defined to be set, let's say, every 4 hours, 8 hours, etc., and the bridge will go back up to the file share to pull down the changes. You can also, as Yuri was just showing, you have the ability to do what's called a check now. So the user can right-click on the bridge, can go to check now at any one point in time. Let's say they called the help desk. The help desk has now provisioned them out, let's say Adobe Acrobat Reader, and if the check isn't scheduled for more than another 4 hours, let's say, the user can right-click, do a check now. It'll go ahead and pull down the Adobe Acrobat Reader and make it available for that user.
Perfect. Next question. Can you assign apps to specific groups of PCs in AD that are located in, let's say, a lab environment?
Sure, that's actually a very good question. So we have the ability to provision out, if it's an AD object, we can pretty much deliver an application to it, right? So in this case, this is just the computer's organizational item from an AD perspective, right? And it's got a set of computers in there. So as Yuri was showing, you can just right-click on this particular AD object, which is called computers, manage their applications, deliver out those applications per computer. The key thing to note is that, let's say you're in a kiosk-type environment, you may have a set of, let's say, ABCD applications that every user would get on that computer. But then as you or I were to walk up to that computer, if I get applications XYZ, not only will I get ABCD, but I will also get XYZ, which are just user-specific.
Right. Yeah, that's the ability to combine user and machine together, yeah.
Right. And again, that's typically seen, on the kiosk-type machines where you have multiple users walking up to a computer.
Perfect. Okay, so next question. How does this work with multiple versions of Java and the applications that use these different versions?
Another very good question. So as Yuri spoke about before, since what we're doing is we're actually virtualizing each of the components, and that's one of InstallFree's sort of core functionalities, right, is dynamic binding. As you can see, we have the expansion AODs container. Since we're essentially virtualizing and containerizing Java, what we do is we add Java as sort of a component to that particular application, right? So since each of the applications are now completely decoupled from the underlying operating system and are going to be basically talking to a specific version of Java based on what's defined in the expansion AOD container, you could essentially have 18 different versions of Java all talking to their own respective applications all at the same time. And again, because they're virtualized, they will not be conflicting with each other. As you already mentioned before, each of our AOD packages or virtual applications do have their own file system, their own registry, their own set of resources and dependencies and DLLs. And that's what really allows InstallFree's virtual applications to be completely decoupled from the underlying operating system.
Perfect.
Absolutely. To add on that, we also, Doug, we have also the ability to let locally installed applications use virtual Java, and that's what we call OS integration. And that is to cover that case here, that we see a virtual app uses certain version of Java, and another virtual app can use here another version of Java. But we also have the ability to let locally installed applications use virtual middleware like Java in that case, and that is through the OS integration.
Perfect. Well, here's an interesting question. What are some of the? Can you give us just real briefly, maybe some of the customers that you have? The exact customer or question is, what are some of the companies that are currently using your solution?
Where we see right now a lot of traction is really in the education space, healthcare, and some in the government. Customers in the education space can be Peach County School District, Boston Architectural College. In the healthcare can be Denver Health, who else? GDS.
On the government side, we have the New Brunswick
ANBL. Yeah, ANBL. But I was thinking about the healthcare, another healthcare. Flipped for a second, but we do focus in that kind of organizations. We do definitely see a lot of traction in education, healthcare, and government. You can find also on our website some customer use cases.
Perfect. Okay, can you use an application? Let me read this. Can you send the user an application launcher for the apps they are allowed to use?
Doug, this is Gaurav. So I guess if you could ask the individual asked the question, so what do they mean by an application launcher?
Yeah, my guess is sort of like with Citrix, you have like an ICA file to where you can just like send them a predefined, maybe email them a link to like a shortcut to the app. If
right.
That's what but I don't know. So the person who sent that question, if you can please follow up, we'll get right back to that one. But let's skip to the next one right now. If an application is assigned to several users for offline use, like MS Office Suite, and many of those users use the same PC, a shared PC, can that app be cached in one location on the PC, or is it cached in each user's profile?
So I'll take that one, Doug. That's a great question. So actually, by default, typically the AOD packages in offline mode will be cached to the user's app data. What we're seeing in a lot of enterprise deployments, and typically as seen on terminal servers or thin client environments, our enterprise customers will look to cache one set of packages to, let's say, the percent all users profile percent. Okay, so you could do documents and settings, all users profile, or if you'd like, you can actually just create a folder called C:\\if packages and just have your actual virtual packages delivered there. Any user-specific information, okay, which is going to be their user data.aok files, which captures their personalizations, customizations, changes, etc. Those will be saved on a per-user basis, either in the user's app data if it's offline, or online, could be up on a file share or a user's home drive, etc. But yes, absolutely. It's one of the properties you can define in the bridge, and you can literally have the packages residing anywhere you would like, as long as it can be stored.
Perfect. So here's a question. So did he previously show IE6 running in a virtual app? So the question, I guess, is can you virtualize IE6?
Yes.
Yep. Currently we can. So actually Yuri was showing IE6.26, which is the current virtual version that we're using. We also have version IE6 with Service Pack 1. So, with the onset of Windows 7 getting released sometime late tonight, that comes with IE8. One of the great benefits we're seeing, in the enterprises, folks are looking to go to Windows 7, and or even if they have newer versions of IE running on XP or Vista or what have you. Right now, yes, we can virtualize IE6, and a number of our enterprise deployments are utilizing web applications from using a virtual IE6. And the great thing about that is, again, with the expansion AOD's capability, that virtual IE6 can be talking to a virtual Java. It doesn't matter. It could be version 1.3.1, a very, very old version. It could be a Flash, Shockwave.net, whatever is required for that particular web application, or, a combination of any of those.
Perfect. So if anybody out there is thinking about upgrading to Windows 7, which I've already done, I love it, and but you want a browser that works, then you have to go back 2 versions of IE6. So I shouldn't say that, but you know what? It's the truth. So let's, guys, we haven't lost a single person yet since we started doing questions. So let's continue along because these are really good. I would like to know how many apps are delivered, or I would like to know how apps are delivered via HTTPS. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. This is Garv again. So our standard mechanism of streaming the applications down to the endpoint is SMB. Okay. We do support HTTP and S8443. So, based on how the enterprise requires, they can customize it, however they would like. But the standard mechanism is, or standard method, I should say, is SMB.
Perfect.
If you talk, let me expand on that. If you talk about the bridge, so we do have the ability to deliver applications to domain computers and non-domain computers. The flow for a non-domain user, and probably it relates to the question of the application launcher, that a user will go to a certain URL and download click on the download the bridge. You download the bridge, which is a virtual application, and when you download the bridge, essentially you run the application. At that point, it's going to ask you for a username and a password. You're going to enter the username and password, and based on your credentials, the applications will be delivered to you and still maintain the same centralized management capabilities that we showed here, but this is a non-domain computer. So for companies, that is, their ability to extend their footprint in the education space. We definitely see students coming to classes with their own, PCs, laptops, and they go to a certain URL, download the bridge, and based on the login credentials, the applications that were assigned to them are going to be delivered to the local machine.
Sounds good. Will the InstallFree App Console perform auto management of user licenses? Does that make sense?
Auto management of user licenses. So, by definition, we're not an asset management company. We give you statistical reports about the usage of the applications, the bridge, very, very granular. We give the ability to export this to any database that you have, any asset management. We also have an SDK that allows companies to use whatever they're using right now and get that kind of reporting. But we interact with them, we integrate with them, we have SDKs, we can export the information, but we're not an asset management company.
Okay, here's a great question. Where can we get this software and the apps that you noted that are already virtualized? And if somebody out there is listening to this, they're enjoying it, they want to learn more, they want to install this, because you can install this on your own machine. Everything's virtualized. It doesn't impact anything. So what do they need to do?
Okay, so right now, in light of Windows 7 release, we offer a Jumpstart program promotion that end users can purchase 50 licenses for $2,500, and they get access to our virtualized application. It includes maintenance. It's just the introduction offer, and we can send all the specific. If they send an email to sales@installfree.com, we have that Jumpstart promotion that is going on right now, and that will give people that are interested to try the product the ability to try and see how it can help them to either migrate to Windows 7 or just improve what they're doing right now.
Perfect. App to OS compatibility. I love this word. What goodness can one expect from this product? Example: app is tested and app not compatible with Vista. Can it be packaged on XP and run in Vista?
Yes. So we also wrote a white paper about simplifying and accelerating operating system migration with application virtualization. So that is really relating to up to OS compatibility, the ability to package once, run anywhere. And the key benefits here are just the application incompatibility to overcome that. So there is an app that runs on XP, doesn't run on Vista, Windows 7, will run to eliminate the regression testing that you have to go through when you do that. If you locally install it, the application upgrade, sometimes you need to go back to the source code and make changes to the application to be able to run on new operating system. We'll remember what happened when Service Pack 2 came to market. A lot of applications just stopped working, and you had to go back to the code and make changes.
Speak up, Yuri.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you better. You get quiet on us.
Okay. User experience, it will be the same. So you can move to new OS, and the user experience, you don't need to teach the user how to use the application in that new operating system. Just the simplification of migration. So if you package your application now, you can start enjoying the benefits. When you're ready to move to Windows 7, it's essentially just going to a new machine, logging in, and the same applications will stream to the local machine.
Perfect. And then we had a question about, can you demo the install process? And guys, we don't really have the time to do that right now, but you know what? We've already done it. We have a DABCC TV episode with these guys, and they walk us directly through the product, sort of what we did today in the demo, but also they showed the install process and things like that. So if you want to see a little bit more, if you want to see the install process, what it takes to package an app, definitely go over to DABCC TV. You can download that video podcast, and watch it at your leisure. So that answers that question. Boy, they just keep coming in. So we're eventually going to have to cut off of this. But what we would do for you guys is I will shoot over these questions to the gents over at InstallFree, and I will force them to answer these questions, and we will send them out to you via email because you guys all registered for this. And then we'll also post those on DABCC.com. So, but let's see if there's any other real good ones before we go ahead and, well, they're all great ones. And they're all very technical too, which I love. So let's just go ahead and ask the question that is on everybody's mind, and that is, what makes the install-free solution better than, or a better choice for a particular customer than the Citrix, the Symantec, the, everybody out there, right?
Right.
Microsoft AppV, obviously, things like that.
So I would say that this technology was designed from the ground up as an application virtualization solution. We did not deviate from another line of business. As a matter of fact, when we designed the product, we didn't even know that the word virtualization existed. We came from the automated support solution space for about 10 years. We worked with Dell, with HP, with NEC, with AOL, with Canon, with Intel, and fixed the problems in the Windows environment after the fact. And when we sat down and wanted to start this company, we had in mind, based on our experience, kind of hands-on experience, what we want to do. We want to lock down the computer and never install anything to the operating system. We want to decouple user from machine. We want to create a balance between IT operational efficiency and end-user productivity. We want to make sure that there is a solution that does not solve one but create another, but rather something that will work for the end user and will be very attractive to the IT manager. And I think, in a nutshell, I think InstallFree is a solution that was built from the ground up. It's a dynamic binding technology that every piece in the computing stack is kind of broken into individual elements and managed separately. And if you see in other virtualization technologies, a lot of the logic is coupled with the package. Every time you need to change something in the package, everything has to be repackaged from scratch, either some policies, add-ons, dependencies for the application. Everything has to be coupled together, because we decouple, we can manage better. And you'll see that by the approach we took in terms of encapsulation, for example. Every application virtualization in the market needs a clean computer and actually utilize the file system of the operating system to package application. We wrote our own file system as opposed to read-only file system that you have in the market. We have a read-write file system. That's what gives us the ability to have this granularity, the ability to even our encapsulator is virtual, not need to install anything to the operating system at any point. So I think the approach is fundamentally different, not relying on the operating system for packaging or interconnectivity. Everything is layered on top of the operating system, and therefore you see the kind of the independency on the operating system version. I think the shell integration, the seamless user experience are some of the key differences here, and definitely the centralized management. So that kind of summarizes. We have a competitive document that describes the key differences, but I would just summarize by this is something that was built from the ground up to do exactly that, and the approach is fundamentally different. That we don't rely on the host computer operating system, not for packaging, not for performance, completely independent of that.
Absolutely. And one of the users out there posted a question, and it wasn't a question, it was a statement, and he said, quote, "The whole thing is virtual. That's what makes it great, in my humble opinion." And that's, I totally agree with that. That's what I find so neat about this. I mean, there's many amazing features that they bring, but the piece that I find so great is that it's 100% virtual. I have a quick question for you. On the sort of the web interface you guys brought up, you said it was powered by the Amazon cloud. Can, let's say, a small SMB, can they just use the Amazon cloud for their app their file share, so to speak? And do we need Active Directory? How does that work? Wouldn't that be neat? Completely get rid of the network.
This is exactly what was done there, Doug. This is what we did is we took the InstallFree infrastructure is the InstallFree management console and put it on the Amazon cloud. So the idea is to provide IT as a service for small business. And let me just bring up this web page. For a small business to go to a website and say, I'm the Doug Brown company, I have 10 employees, and we created a very user-friendly interface, but like 4 screens. First screen, you second screen, you add users. Fourth screen, you just third screen, check boxes. And then all you have to do is to give your employees a link. They click on the link, the bridge comes down, username and password, and the applications are streamed to the local machine. So, and because we have multi-tier administration capabilities, we can give you the ability to manage only your organization. So, in that respect, you're just a small OU within the big tree. So you have one AD, but you can slice it to many, many small companies.
Well, perfect. Yuri, you need to speak up or I'm going to drive up there and force you.
I'm telling you, I'm doing my best here, Doug.
I know. Okay, guys, there's one more question, and well, there's a lot of questions, and again, we will answer these and get these to you because we just don't have enough time, and I appreciate everyone for sticking around. Also, we've lost 2 people since we've started doing the Q&A, so maybe we should just have the entire webinar Q&A, you know? But this is great. This is great stuff, so I really appreciate everyone out there. One guy asked, what the heck does DABCC stand for? And it stands for Douglas Albert Brown Computer Company. It was not designed, the company name was not designed for a Citrix virtualization VMware website. It was back in January of '99. I was given DSL, or I was able to get DSL for the first time, and I thought to myself, gee, let's bring up a website. I always loved IIS. It was one of my electives when I first started, or when I did my NT4 MCSE. So I brought that up, a simple website called DABCC.com, just to share resources with the engineers I worked with, because they would always come to me and say, hey, Doug, you have that Novell uninstall disk. Can you please send it can I borrow it? Well, I never got it back. So I just posted everything up to this site. When I was a very little boy, I wrote programs. Back in the 80s, that's all you could do, right? And my father had a friend who was a programmer, and he had a company called Christensen Computer Company, and so I always thought that was the coolest thing. So as a 12-year-old, I came up with Doug Brown Computer Company. And but when I went to go register, I thought, oh, I'll do DBCC. This will be cool. It's like when I was 12 again, at age 20 something. And so I went to go register DBCC, and it was taken by Desert Breeze Community Church. So I've been sending them hate mail for the past 10 years. No, that's my joke. But so that's where DABCC comes from. It's a horrible name, but to me, it's I'm 38 now. I'll be 39 in less than a month, and back when I was 12, I came up with that name, so to speak. So it has a lot of meaning to me and absolutely no meaning to any of you guys. So on that note, I really appreciate you guys visiting dabcc.com, listening to our webinars, downloading our podcasts and videos. Yuri and gang, I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to be with us today. You still have a little bit more work to answer some more questions. But I really appreciate the webinar and your time on the webinar today, and I appreciate everyone out there for listening. So, Yuri, I'll go ahead and give you the last word.
Thanks for having us. It was fun, and definitely looking forward to see the rest of the questions. We promise to answer each and every one of them. And if you have any questions, just send us email at sales@installfree.com, or if you need access to the eval or you want to take advantage of the Jumpstart promo, please go ahead.
Absolutely, and definitely check out the show notes too. We'll get this posted up as soon as possible. I do have some editing to do on the podcast or on the audio and put all the video together and all that jazz. So hopefully I'll get to that tonight. If not, it'll be tomorrow, and we'll get that up right away. And so within the show notes, there'll be links to some of the things Yuri talked about and all that jazz. So definitely contact these guys. It's a really neat product, guys. It's one of my favorites out there, and it's fun, it's easy, it works. And what more do I say? So, guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on DABCC Live.